We are back on Inside Politics, talking presidential politics this week with Larry Woods and Bill Phillips. Bill, the rise of Elizabeth Warren in these polls, both in Iowa and New Hampshire, does that mean the end of Bernie Sanders? They're competing for the same progressive vote and wing of the party. And would Republicans rather run against Elizabeth Warren or against Joe Biden?
Well, as far as Bernie Sanders, I think the end for him was already present. But Elizabeth Warren is putting meat on the bones, and people are listening. And I think that probably the Republicans are getting a little nervous about her and being able to beat her, including the president.
So we're not going to hear as much about Pocahontas this next time from the president. Hasn't really harped on that.
Hope not.
You know, I'm sure we will hear it, but Trump's going to have a stronger strategy than that. I mean, it's not just the Republicans that have something to worry about here. It's the Trump faction of the Republican Party, which obviously has been the majority at one point, but I frankly don't think the Trump supporters are any longer a majority in the Republican Party. They've had to put up with too much.
Is Joe Biden going to be hurt by this investigation? There doesn't appear to be any information of wrongdoing on his behalf or his son's behalf, but this is going to continue to be harped on in a partisan way, and that tends to leave a residue hurting somebody just because it's repeated over and over again.
I think Mr. Biden's, Vice President Biden's natural impulse here wrong. He's thinking, gee, it's my name and it's me with my face on TV and that's good. No, and I don't know that his son did anything wrong. I know nothing about Ukraine and the facts of that energy company. But a constant drumbeat in impeachment hearings of they were investigating and closed investigation. Trump wanted them to reopen investigation of Trump's son here, and there was something wrong. That's going to hurt after a couple of months.
Bill, two other questions. If Biden does not win in both New Hampshire and Iowa, does his firewall become South Carolina, where there's a much more African-American population that he seems to be very strong with?
Well, the firewall is South Carolina in that situation, but I was with some African-American Republicans this week who were talking about that Biden is not paying attention to that community, that he's taking them for granted, and it's beginning to be felt among the African-American community, Democrats and Republicans alike.
So is there anybody else there's still 19 Democrats running for president. Is there anybody else in that field that could emerge to join these other two or top three?
Kamala Harris has demonstrated in the past she can move up swiftly. Right now she's back down again, so she's got to work on her strategy, but yeah, she's got the potential. Mayor Pete from South Bend, Indiana has the potential to move up quickly because he's got access to a lot of money, but he doesn't seem to have a strategy. He's got the Biden problem even worse in the African American community. He's got no strategy about that community, and that's what, 35% of the vote in South Carolina, maybe a little higher than that. So it seems to me he's going nowhere in South Carolina, and so I'd say it's really Warren or Biden is the reality at this point.
Bill, President Trump has at least 3 people on the Republican side opposing him for the nomination. That's in the past been sometime a harbinger of trouble for an incumbent to get reelected. Do any of these people have any kind of chance to beat him, particularly as the Republicans continue to rally around him over this impeachment situation?
I really think that that's fighting the windmill on their part, because Trump's supporters are Trump's supporters.
I'm going to have to disagree with you now. This is going to be 1968 New Hampshire primary in my Democrat Party all over again. Senator Gene McCarthy ran against the incumbent President Lyndon Johnson and got, 48% of the vote. Johnson won, but barely, shocked everybody, ended Johnson's presidency. I think there are going to be a lot of Republicans walking that booth in New Hampshire where it's private and confidential and not vote for Trump.
Well, there are some states that are talking about not having their Republican part of the presidential preference primary. Is that a possibility, Bill, in Tennessee? Are you hearing anything on the Hill here?
I have not heard anything in Tennessee, but that is a bad idea and a bad strategy if the party tries that.
Your party, you control the state legislature. You need to reach out and move our primary up 2 weeks. We would become a determining stake for who the nominees are in both parties for a change, instead of who cares who wins the Tennessee primary. All the TV and media outlets in Tennessee would make a fortune. Are you listening to me, new Speaker of the House of Representatives, new governor? Here's a golden opportunity for our state, for both parties. Move that primary date up. They'll have to negotiate with the national parties, but it can be done, and then we'd be sitting here talking about Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and let's have our primary the same weekend that South Carolina does.
Bill, as we close, Mike Pence is going to be in town in the next few days raising money in Tennessee. This is a good state to raise money if we're not a battleground state anyway. He has perhaps one of the more difficult roads to tightrope his way through all this, because he is vice president, he is loyal to the president, but he might be the presidential candidate if things don't go well on the impeachment front for the president. So what kind of a difficult situation does he have coming to Tennessee or anywhere else being vice president these days?
Well, being vice president is probably one of the worst jobs in America.
Period.
Because you are caught between the vice of what you want to do and what your boss wants to do.
Al Gore might know something about that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
In a very similar situation.
And H.W. Bush was excellent at walking that straight line, and it paid off for him. But other vice presidents, and Pence included, have a difficult role.
Larry Woods, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an interesting time, and I suspect we'll have you back to talk more about this as this continues to develop between now and the end of the year, and maybe into 2020, particularly on the presidential campaign. And thank you for joining us this week on Inside Politics. Hope you'll be back here again for a future show. If you can't get off politics in the meantime, go to the News Channel 5 website. You'll find my Capitol View commentary there. There's new commentary posted every Friday afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you here next time. Goodbye.